Hey, everybody, welcome to a new episode of the My Impossible podcast. Today, we welcome Dan Yearick to the show. I've had the privilege through our shared connection with More Heart Than Scars to be able to watch Dan's journey over the last 6 months. And he, in today's episode, will share his incredible journey of weight loss. Who Dan is to me is a word you may not expect given what I just told you about his journey. But who he is to me is service. That through this process is his heart is to serve others and to set aside his own goals, his own ambitions, and support others to achieve their impossible. Whether it's a sprained ankle or exhaustion on a race course or a mental breakdown or a challenge they're facing mentally as they're taking on their impossible. He is a gift to everyone who has the privilege to meet Dan. I think you're really going to enjoy this My Impossible conversation with Dan Yearick. Dan Yearick, welcome to the show. I've been so inspired by your story as I've witnessed you from afar via Facebook, and so really excited to dig in today on the show.
Thank you. It means a lot.
You're welcome. So, Dan, what is or was your impossible?
I would definitely have to say mine was definitely, being a bigger guy and trying to lose weight. That was definitely my impossible. I struggled with weight loss for years. I went through multiple periods where I lost weight, then I gained weight, and I lost weight, and then I tremendously gained weight. So it's been a battle. And it always has been. Never know. Ever since I was a kid. I was a military brat, so I moved around a lot. So constantly here, there, new friends. And it was mind boggling. It was definitely a mental thing, and I think that's, what led on to a lot of that, just because I got bullied or, picked on or, oh, well, you're just one of those kids that's just going to move in a year anyhow. So it's like, yeah, it was hard.
Yeah. So, take us a little deeper in the story because this is more than just losing a few pounds. Tell us exactly where you got to in dealing with your weight.
So, like I said, I struggled a lot through high school, mainly. I came out of high school at like 375 pounds. Then I worked in retail, worked at Sports Authority, which basically is like a Dick's Sporting Goods. Met a guy, got me hooked onto P90X, did good. Was trying to go into the military, and then of course that's when they were downsizing, and I went through like a bad relationship. So I ended up going back to old habits of eating, and I even started drinking pretty decent and ballooned up pretty good. Um, but like when I did the P90X, I got it from 375 all the way down to 252. Then I bumped up to, after that breakup, I went to, what was it? I think it was like 410. I went up pretty quick. And then, I just off and on, I kept going up and down with weights. Um, Now granted, my highest weight I ever have hit was being with my wife. Now granted, that was not her fault by any means. I went through, a lot of, like I said, I went through two major, relationship breakups, and, it was definitely mentally, a mental struggle with me. Just the kind of guy that I am, giving my heart out all the way, helping out others. And it's like, then I find out, after multiple years in a relationship that I get cheated on. It's just like, it hurt. So, like my go-to was like eating, obviously. So, and that was obviously a problem. But, going back to, like I said, with my highest weight, I got up to 525 pounds. That was my own doing. Just trust issues, and it wasn't against my wife. It was just, it was one of the things. It was a hard thing to get over and get overcome with, and just, like I said, eating was just my go-to. It's like, I just ate to eat. And, I basically ate to where like I obviously ate more than I should have. Like if I was full, like I would even push the envelope even further, which obviously just, which is why I got bigger. But me and my wife, we got married back in what was it, October 10th or yeah, October 10th of 2020. And we made a pact that, like after we got married and all that, I was gonna go to a doctor and all that because I haven't seen a doctor since high school. So now remind you, I graduated in 2010. So I didn't see a doctor hard for realistically wise for like 10 years, like an actual checkup doctor. But like with that, my wife, she was constant on me even before we had gotten married. Cause we met the day after Christmas in 2017. And I could tell that she loved me and I tell that I loved her very much. And, she was constantly on my rear, from set or basically you want to say 2018. From there to our marriage, like she was always on me. Like as we were getting stronger with our relationship, she's like, look, I care about you. I'd love you to see take care of your better health. And I did do good for a little while, that I kind of went back and got into some like bad habits. I was working a lot, so I was like constantly stressed, constantly you just sleep deprived, just it's just part of the oil field life. But it's just one of them deals. Like it just it was hard.
Yeah. So, we call it an impossible. You described, uh, take us into that moment or what was going on in your mind where it literally felt impossible. You looked at your situation, whether it be at the height of your weight or at a point in between. What was that feeling like where you looked at the situation and said, this is impossible?
So like when I made a change, basically.
No, not even the change, even before that, where you looked at your situation, you saw your weight, despite your wife's encouragement and prodding, where you said, this is impossible.
I'd probably have to say that was like shortly before we had gotten married. My wife, like I said, she was constantly on me, and I didn't like really see about it, like as being like married, like hey, I need to be there for her. I need to take care of her, through sickness and health and all the other stuff. And as we got closer to to the wedding, it was just one of them deals. Like it was like I really need to do something, and that's when I saw myself on the scale, and I saw that I was at 525, and I'm like, oh my lord, like this is not good. Like I need to do something, or this is literally just gonna be my life, and I'll be lucky if I live, for a couple more years. That definitely was definitely my impossible moment. Like I was like, I gotta do something. And plus, like I said, I had her support fully. But it was just one of the type of deals that like after we got married, like I told her that I was gonna go finally go see a doctor. And that basically led to other things, and we can get into that, whenever you're ready for that.
So talk to us about that moment where you decide you mentioned before the wedding and you saw the number on the scale and something started to register differently. What was, whether it be a single moment or a series of moments, what was that moment or those moments where you decided, I have to take this on in a way that I've never taken it on before?
So yeah, like it was just definitely one of those moments where, like I said, it was just like, I realized that where I stood, I definitely needed to do something, and it was scary. Because, like I said, I went up and down with weights and stuff like that, but like I've never been this high. So, when I saw that I was this high, I'm like, this is literally impossible. Like I'm never gonna be able to get down to a healthy weight. But I told myself I have to, like, not just for me, but for my family, for my wife, like everybody. Like, I mean, I constantly just didn't even care about nothing, and I didn't, care about friends. I didn't care about family at the time. I mean, I did, but I didn't. You know what I mean? It was one of them type of deals. It was just like all I cared about was me and whatever I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And that's when I was like realizing, like, okay, that's got to stop. Like, that's obviously what got you here. This is what's going on. Like, you need to do something.
Hmm. And when you saw that doctor, did she or he say something to you that really clicked it in?
So yeah, so got married, like I said, back in October of 20. I met my doctor, Dr. Carroll. I met him, what was that, January of 21. As promised, I told my wife I'd go see a doctor. So originally it was supposed to end up being a physical checkup. Now, mind you, I did do truck driving beforehand, so I had sleep apnea, because of my weight. I also found out once I started doing the physical, that I had high blood pressure. I was like 189 or 190 something over like 90 over 90 something. It was significantly high. And I looked at the doctor and I'm like, is that bad? And he's just like, well, technically I should be admitting you to the ER because this is not good. He's like, we'll see how your heart does, after we let you sit for a little bit longer, see if it goes down some. And it did. Um, but right there, he prescribed me, blood pressure medicine. And he's like, you got another symptom, like you have high blood pressure. I'm like, oh. And he's like, well, he's like, a lot of that's because of your weight. He's like, yeah, he wasn't like he was harsh, but he wasn't harsh, in a professional stance. But basically the eye opener for me there was literally when he told me, like, look, you need to do something about your weight. Um, if we don't do something about it soon, you may be lucky if you have 5 years before you have a massive stroke or a massive heart attack. And when that was said, like that just instantly was like getting kicked by a mule to the face. It was like, boom, light turned on. Like, it was like, oh my God, like I need to do something. Here I am, 3 months into my marriage and I'm getting told basically I have a life expectancy of possibly 5 years before, it's no longer. And I'm like, yeah, this doesn't look good. Especially when I took an oath saying that, I wanted to grow old with her and all this Heather stuff. It's like, yeah, that kind of backfired.
Mm. So for those that are watching on the video, they can see your face. I mean,
Mhm.
this is a massive change.
Oh yeah.
Those that are listening, you can go to YouTube and see a picture of Dan. So tell us about this journey. I mean, it's been now 6 years. Yeah, give us an insight into the journey from that moment to the guy, um, the lean guy that I'm looking at right now. And for those that check Dan out on Facebook or wherever else, I mean, this guy is a beast, and incredibly fit. So tell us the story of, in a few minutes, of going from that moment to where you are today.
All right. So like I said, so I went to my highest weight of 525, which was January of 2021. I was supposed to have my surgery. Because that was the other thing too. Like when I had my doctor's appointment, we said about the weight thing. That's when I also had proposed to him, like, hey, I was also interested in wanting to do weight loss surgery, which is what I ended up doing. Um, and he said I'd definitely be a really good candidate for it. So that's where I did it. I said, look, I'm very determined. It's one of those things that like, I don't want the weight loss surgery to be a get me out of jail card, basically. Like, I don't want it to be like, oh, this is what's going to fix everything. Like, I'm going to put the discipline, I'm going to put the work, everything. And obviously that's been proven. Cause I literally told my doctor, I said, look, if I do this weight loss surgery, I'm going to literally make records. Like, I'm literally going to hit this thing with the biggest baseball bat you've ever seen. So anyhow, went for 525 in January, was supposed to have surgery in October of 21. But obviously there in that time, that was obviously COVID. A lot of the elective surgeries were, postponed and pushed back. So it went from October to, what was it, January, which I knew that was going to get backfired again because obviously holidays. So that rose again, pushed me back further. So then they said, okay, well, we're looking at like April 27th. I said, perfect. It's not too long after my birthday. And I was just going to be turning 30. I said, this would be a perfect way to, enter my 30s, I'll do it. So April 27th came. I went into surgery weight at 423 pounds. So I ended up actually losing 102 pounds on my own. Now, grant between all that time, from 21 to then, I also had to go through dieting, uh, an endoscope, the whole different things with the bariatric side. Definitely not an easy task. I mean, like there was a lot of mental and physical changes. I had to go through a psych evaluation. And that's why like I get irritated when some people say like, "Oh, well, you took the easy way out with doing weight loss surgery." I'm like, you don't know the physical toll mentally and physically that I just went through. Like, if you were to see what I went through, you will not call this easy. If anything, this is like doing double the work of what a normal person would because of the dieting, the mentality, the physicality of everything. Like, it's just not easy. Um, so anyhow, like I said, I went into surgery April 27th of 2022. I was weighing 423 pounds. Went great. Blasted through, the months, and I was supposed to be back at work. Like, what was it, 6 weeks? I ended up going back in 3 weeks. I was working at a rock quarry at the time, so I was constantly shoveling stone, sand, a lot of stuff like cleaning up, doing maintenance stuff. That helped me dramatically. Then I went into the oil rigs, went back to the oil field, got into that for a while. Did good, lost a tremendous amount of weight. Then my wife had asked me, like she'd want me home more often. So I ended up going to, where I work at now, like Combing Engines, and I work for them doing machining stuff. But, anyhow, I, got into the whole OCR thing. And I was like, well, he's like, I was like, with me going to the gym, I was like, I want to try out, OCR because back in, what was it, 2014, I believe it was. I think that's when Hurricane Ivan or whatever it was, that real big one that came through. I did a OCR back then called Hardcore Mud Run. And I was, like 325. It's on my Facebook and stuff. 325 or 350, somewhere around there. And I fell in love with it. And I'm just like, man, I was like, I remember when I did that, like I had so much fun. So I was like, you know what? Like that's my goal. I want to be able to get fit, be like all these OCR people, and just I want to be able to race. I just want to be able to say I did it. Well, even if I was a little bit bigger, I didn't care. That was my whole point. It was just to lose weight and, strive for the goal that I wanted. Um, so I did my first ever OCR, on the new body, which I technically consider, my first real OCR because like, when I did it at 3 something, I struggled through a lot of it, but this was like my first real OCR. So I did Savage, Pennsylvania, but it was in the Poconos last year. I did the race and the blitz back to back. I literally had like 15 minutes in between after I got done doing the race and I went straight into the blitz. Um, Everyone was just like, dude, like you crushed it. Like, you should go check out Spartan. If you want something a little bit more challenging or, a little bit more endurance, go check out Spartan. So I did. But, going back to, before I went to Savage, there was a big milestone there too. Is that I went from, what would I say, 423 in 2022. I did my Savage race in August of last year. So that's about a year and a half worth of work. That was my biggest milestone. I lost over 300 pounds. I went from 423. When I went and did Savage, I was probably, what was it? I think it was like 201. So, I mean, I lost a tremendous amount of weight. I posted it on the Savage Syndicate page, saying, oh, I can't wait to come, all this. I had like 600 plus like comments and likes and everything. Like everybody was going nuts on that post. Like, dude, you're such an inspiration. Like, I can't wait to meet you. Like, I'm gonna be at Savage, Pennsylvania, all this. Like, everybody was so excited. And that's when I learned, that OCR is an awesome community. Because like I said, when I showed up to that race, like everyone's like looking at me kind of like awkward. And I'm like, I do something? They're like, you're that guy. I'm like, what guy? They're like, the one on Facebook. You're the one that lost 300 pounds. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, dude, you're the reason I came today. Like, I literally, like, that's all I was wanting to do is wasn't meet you. I'm just like, oh man, like that's awesome. Like, I've never had that. I mean, I'm a very social person, but I've never had someone say like, you're the reason why I came to this event, or you're the reason I wanted to meet you, this, that. But going back to, like I said, with the Savage thing, like I showed up there, I got to tell my story up on stage. Like I had a lot of fun with it. And I had the biggest standing ovation ever. Even got to start with the first group right out the gate. I led the pack. It was just awesome. So like I said, after that, everybody said, go check out Spartan. So I did. I signed up for my first ever trifecta, not knowing how trifectas work. I thought like, oh, okay, 3 races, you have to do it all at once. That's what I did. So I signed up for Vernon, New Jersey, not knowing until after the fact that I could have split it up, through that year. Cause I think what Vernon was October of last year, cause they didn't have one this year for the fall. And, so I ended up doing the beast and the super and the sprint right off the bat. That was also another time another hurricane came through, and I did the beast very well. I think I did that in like 6 hours. Super, I did really good. The sprint, I did it very, very well. I came in the top 10%, or yeah, I came in the top 10 out of everybody the whole day. But it was just awesome. And from there on, it just led to where you know, my impossible felt like it was finally broken. And, this was the career, not even really a career. I would say it was the new lifestyle that I was going to live. And it was going to stay with me. And then I told my wife, like, look, this is what makes me happy. This is what, brings me to my peace. Before, like, yeah, you could say like, hey, let's go do a race or let's go for a run. And I had like, no, now it's just like that's my love and passion. I mean, just like last night, I went out on the mountain. Apparently I went a little late, but I went up on the Boulder Beast and I did what was it, a 7.77 mile run. Got up to the top of the boulder field. Luckily, I got to at least at the top of that. But then after that, it got completely pitch black. All I had was my headlamp and a reflective vest. And that was a game changer. But it's just one of those, like it scared me at first when I started running at night last night. But then at the same time, it's just like, this is how you build your character. This is how you adapt. This is how you overcome. This is how you make things not impossible. You need to push through and find ways to adapt through it.
You mentioned the OCR community.
Mhm.
One of our phrases at my impossible is our possible, meaning that community is everything in achieving the impossible. Would you talk a little bit more about the community that has surrounded you through your journey?
So, I mean, like my community is pretty big. Obviously the OCR community, the trail running community, but mainly my family. I got my parents; they support me very well. My wife, obviously, she's been there since day one. Um, I've even picked up friends throughout the time. Yeah, because I'm part of a couple bariatric private groups, and I've met friends that way. Like I know Gino Vento. He's the owner of Gino's Cheesesteaks. They're in Philly. You got Gino's and Pat's. The ones that always compete against each other. He's also bariatric. Me and him have become great friends. Um, ever since I got into like the whole racing deal, I've picked up more than I would say than like friends. It was more like a family. I mean, because this community is so strong, not even just OCR. I mean, even the trail running side of it, it's basically equivalent. Everybody, you got different people in that community. I mean, that's anywhere. You got the people that, when they show up to these races, um, they there's some that are there that are just like, okay, here, I'm here to podium. This is all I want, blah, 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 blah. Then you got the mass majority, the main people. You got the ones that are just like, look, we're all here to make your impossible my possible, like you had said. And basically, when I see that, that's definitely in those communities because it's one of those they don't care because they know they're not going to make a podium. They don't want a podium. They would rather see somebody that's struggling finish that day, going home with what they came to do, than seeing them not finish. And that's why I love the OCR community and trail running because I mean I picked up that adaptation too. Like I mean before, like yeah, I was trying to go out hot out the gate, but then I realized like, look, all right, my training's not fully there yet. Eventually one day, like I do want to try a couple times. But like if I still see someone struggle, I would probably just say screw it. I wouldn't even care if I lost my podium. Like I would rather see that person make it through than me podiuming. That's more rewarding. That's more rewarding to myself than anything. Like I mean, yeah, okay, whoopee, I get another medal and I can say, ooh, I finished second or first or like whatever. Yeah, it's all cool, but I would rather see someone who's like, having a mental breakdown or, they rolled their ankle and they're, in pain. Be like, come on, let's go. Like, I got you. I got your back. Like, let's go. I'm going to make sure you finish. Like, if it takes us an extra 2 more hours, we're doing it. Like, I don't care.
I love it, man. I love it. What what's your hopes when you share by sharing your story? What do you hope people hear in that?
Yeah. My biggest thing with my story and, like I've always tried pushing with people is like, you know, anything is possible. Don't ever think that it's impossible. Um, there's always a way. It's just finding that way. And sometimes it takes a while. I mean, look at me. I mean, it took me a long time to realize that, I was living I was living in a impossible life for a very long time. And I had just thought like, okay, this is how life's gonna be. But then, my eyes opened up and I finally found it. Like it is there. Like, never once, like, permanently assume, like, this is always gonna be impossible. There's always gonna be a possible way, no matter what. Um, but, like, I just want people to know that, like, especially when it comes to weight loss, like, it is a struggle. But, there are a lot of people that are out there that also are struggling the same way or, someone like me who's been successful the way I have been, that's willing to help. And that's the thing, like, don't don't just sit back and be like, "Oh, maybe one day I'll find something or, something that'll give me my spark." Like, if you're struggling, like, look people up that are, said like, "Hey, I'm struggling with weight loss," or, "Hey, I've had this type of success story," stuff like that. Um, just look for it because you never know who you might meet. I mean, like I said, I met Gino and all it was just from a group and Gino helped me and he had surgery. He technically had a surgery before, like 2 years before, and then he had a revision, 2 weeks before my surgery. But he was the one that helped prepare me. He's the one that, said, "Hey, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to do here." And, he helped me. And that's the thing. Like, I want to give that same feeling that I got from Gino back to everybody else, just because that's the type of guy I am. I have that type of heart where it's like I would rather give up my personal time to see someone smile and be successful than, me, having my constant success. Like if I have to spend extra time and dedication to someone else, I have no problems by any means because in the end, you never know how that person can help you.
Mm.
I mean, like it's just one of them deals like, yeah, I could help somebody, with their weight loss, just guiding them. And obviously mental health is a major issue too with everybody. So, like, and I struggle with it at times. I mean, I have high ADHD, I've got a learning disability, I've got a lot of different other or, mental disabilities. So sometimes it's a mental struggle itself. Um, but like I said, if I helped one of those type of people out, they may be able to help me with my mental issues. So, and that's where it's like, you gotta take the give.
Yeah.
So,
If folks are hearing this and they say, I want to connect with Dan and get Dan's help, where can they find you, Dan?
they can find me on Facebook, Instagram. I think what my Instagram is Dan the Beast Yearick. Um, and then I'm on TikTok and stuff like that, but I haven't been on there as much. Basically, it's mainly my main socials are going to be right now is uh, Facebook and Instagram. I'm actually in the process of trying to create my own YouTube channel as well. It's going to be called Beast Dynamics.
Mm.
It's going to basically just be a weight loss and fitness type channel. So it's going to be, not just for people that are like struggling just on the bariatric side. It's just going to be an all day, or an every type person, type deal for when it comes to fitness or, just even with weight loss, struggles. But I'm also going to be hitting up like the mentality side. Just because I know where a lot of that is. Plus I've seen a lot of it. I recently just had a tattoo done on my arm. Said it's IGY6, with the 22 in the background, which stands for I got your six, and the 22 is for soldier suicide awareness. Um, that is a huge deal to me. I literally broke down when I got that done. because I had lost 8 people very close to me since high school due to PTSD and suicide. So it's just one of them. It's one of the things like it means a lot to me, and that's why like my strict focus on if I can help anybody in this world is helping them with weight loss and fitness and mental health. That is my biggest thing.
That's awesome. Well, we'll put those links and your handles in the show notes. Dan, I'm so inspired by your story and your heart to give and to serve. So just thank you so much for this time. It's amazing. I really
Yes, thank you. Means a lot. Trust me. I mean, it definitely means a lot. I mean, the more and more I can get this story out, the better. Whether I keep doing more shows, more podcasts, even public speakings. I've even looked into that type of deal. Um, it's just I just want to prove to everybody that anything is possible. Defy the odds that are against you and just go for it. Like don't don't sit back and just live the coaster life and just like, oh yeah, everything will just come to itself. Like you have to earn it to get it.
yeah.
Like it doesn't nothing comes free. Nothing at all. I mean, it's just you gotta put the work into it.
Awesome.
And obviously, I'm one of those type of people now, like I'll literally go the extra mile if I have to. I don't care.
It's awesome, Dan. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.